Hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Laura and I will be covering Chapter 8, which is Support Materials and Visualization for Distance Education. So I'm going to go ahead and take the first half of this webinar and then I will leave you with Laura for the second half. But before we dive into any of our content, let's go ahead and take a look at our learning objectives. The first one is to gain insight to effective use of support materials in distance education. The second one is to develop a distance education course syllabus. The third will be to apply graphic design principles to interactive study guides, and the fourth one is to develop word pictures and develop visual mnemonics. Additionally, with these learning objectives, I have some terms that you guys may need to know. Ebooks are simply just electronic versions of printed books. You may think of this when you're using Kindles or Apple Books or just the Kindle app on any electronic device. Also, what comes to mind for me is Yuzu, which is how I use the ebook versions of our textbooks. These are all examples of ebooks that you may have seen or used yourself. The second term to know is our interactive study guide. This is a structured note-taking system to guide and engage the learner through a series of concepts. So we'll learn more about this as we go. So now that we've covered our learning objectives and our terms to know, let's dive right into the chapter. So the first thing I want to bring your attention to is the current debate on ebooks versus printed books. So to start us off, I'm just going to show you guys a clip from a short video that will help you to understand and get to know the debate versus ebooks and printed books.
Ebooks versus printed books. Which is really better? Prepare for round one. Let's talk about the features. According to 68% of young adult readers with devices used for reading, a person can read in any light condition, adjust text size, highlight text for later reference, store a lot of books in one device, and carry it anywhere. Books offer a physical aspect that an ebook doesn't. You can flip through its pages and directly write notes on the book itself, giving a more natural experience. Round 2. Ebooks and printed books fight for the ease it gives to the readers. According to 66% of young adult readers, printed books are better. First, they're eye-friendly. Second, they give a more fulfilling reading experience, which connects the reader to the book. Lastly, it doesn't require power. Ebooks, on the other hand, are the opposite of these reasons, which made it difficult for them to read. Also, they cause eyes to strain. Round 3. Let's talk about the cost. 86% of readers who have devices find ebooks cheaper than printed books. There are also free ebooks on the internet, which is also one reason why they choose to read ebooks. Printed books just cost more. Round 4. Let's talk about learning and comprehension. According to an interview with young adult readers, all of them retain information longer when they read in printed format than on digital. They may read faster with ebooks, but find it hard to recall information compared to paperback. Round 5. Let's talk about the accessibility of both formats. Readers have listed 3 characteristics that they love about ebooks and printed books. Ebooks are convenient, store many books in one single device, and can be read anytime, anywhere. While printed books are said to be authentic, classic, and collectible. Round 6. Let's talk about the feel and utility aspect of books. 66% of readers said that printed books offer a different experience. It gives a real and authentic feel, nostalgia, and satisfaction among them. It's a smell and the way of curling up in a good book while flipping its pages that an ebook can't offer.
So now that you have a little more insight into the debate going on between ebooks and print books, you can hopefully start to form your own ideas and opinions about what you prefer. The topic of ebooks versus print books is a pretty big debate going on in distance education right now because print books have been so deeply rooted within the education system and pretty much any system that the transition for a lot of people is hard to completely change over to just using ebooks. I personally prefer to read out of print books, but I can't argue that there are a ton of helpful features like cost, being able to annotate on ebooks that are really helpful. So as we move on, I'm going to ask you for your opinion into this debate. So some of the advantages of ebooks: it promotes reading because you can have it, it's accessible, people spend more time on their screens than on paper nowadays, so it's a lot easier for them to pick up a book if it's just on their phone. They're faster and cheaper to produce, they're easily updatable, they come with search features, so you can search different chapters or keywords in the textbook or any book a lot easier when it's on an ebook. They're portable. You can take your entire library with you on your phone or your computer or your iPad or any other device that is ebook compatible. There's instant delivery. You don't have to either drive to the bookshop or wait for it to be delivered to your door. It's instantly delivered on your device that you're using. Annotations are possible on ebooks without damaging the hardcover book or the physical copy book. You can highlight, make notes in the sections of an ebook. Also, you can hyperlink things in an ebook that allows you to just click off and link other resources, other materials. For accessibility, it's a lot more accessible to those with disabilities because of that read aloud feature or highlighting feature. It's a lot more accessible. Okay, so one of the quotes that I found is, even though students have the opportunity to access technology anytime and anywhere they want, there is still a preference for reading printed books. And this is going to lead into our learner engagement, because I find it really interesting that despite all these advantages of ebooks, the easiness, the cost, the accessibility, people still have a preference for reading those printed books. So as we move along here, where do you stand in the debate of ebooks versus print media? Which do you prefer? Do you agree with the advantages? Do you not agree? I want to hear your voice. You can refer to this link in the comment section on LinkedIn. I will have this link posted that you can just simply click on it, or if for some reason you can't find it, I also have it here. You can just type it into your search bar and you can pull it up. And then just go ahead and pause this video while you guys complete it, and then jump back right in when you're ready. Okay, so now that we've completed our learner engagement for that little section, we're going to take a look at the syllabus in regards to distance education. So typically, a distance education syllabus is very similar to any other syllabus in any other course. The primary difference is in the specificity and completeness compared to a traditional one. So this should be available to students before the first day of class, preferably, so that they can go ahead, take a look at what's available to them in the course, what's expected of them, the requirements, the time allotments, all that kind of details that would be in a syllabus. It's better for the student to have this in advance of the class starting. So the earlier the better, it allows students time to prepare for the class. Often this is used as a recruiting tool in distance education. If students can get a hold of their syllabus, look at it, see what the course is about, they feel more inclined or will be more motivated to complete the class. So a lot of people will send out the syllabus just to gain interest in their course. So if it's available online, the learner should be able to access this from wherever they are. So you're going to want to not just have hard copies of your syllabus. Obviously, this wouldn't be possible in distance education. You're going to have it online so that learners can access it anytime, any place. And then this would just be used as a guide to guide students through the course and as an organizational document. So this will tell them the due dates, how to organize their materials in order to complete something, and then a lot of the syllabi will contain course logistics, course policies, instructional activities, assessment information, any other additional information that would be needed in that syllabus. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the interactive study guide. So this quote I found, students spend a lot of time taking notes. However, students fail to fully realize the advantage of note-taking as a process to develop a personalized learning system that could serve effectively over a lifetime. So I found this quote really interesting, which leads us straight into the use of the interactive study guide, which is that students really need to be engaged and have a purpose for their notes for them to be long-lasting and to benefit them the most. So what is an interactive study guide? An interactive study guide is a management and organizational tool to help students through the course. Sears and Al Kent were credited with proposing it. And this is an important tool for the distance educator because it improves student note-taking and makes it more efficient, but it also will allow it to be a management tool for the course. So this will direct course activities before, during, and after the instruction and help guide the learner through those activities. And it can be used in any classroom, including all distance education classrooms and systems. So this is a handout designed to be used by the student, and it's a highly organized set of student notes using graphics, pictures, charts, clip art, problems, and exercises, anything like that that will help engage the learner and guide them through it in whatever system and flow is necessary. This is planned before class and presented to the students for them to complete while they're going through the course. This is effective when students are viewing those pre-recorded lectures or webinars just like this. If you had an interactive study guide to go through with it, you'd be taking notes and be guided through our material while engaging you, and it helps you to understand the important events and content of that lesson. So it consists of two main parts, the display and the notes section. So the notes section is pretty self-explanatory. That's the part where the students will actually be filling out the notes that is used in the content. The display is a series of displays sequenced in order of the discussion and presentation. So this is where you would include your graphs, your charts, anything like that, or your word pictures. This can be used to chunk information. So it can consist of word pictures with fill-ins to be completed by the student, or activities or exercises that are going to be completed that will help you to assist with that note section. So let's go ahead and take a look at the picture that will help you with an example to understand it. So the part 1 is that display section, and the part 2 is the notes. So your display section will correlate with the note section, often with like this display number that will help to link them together. And if you look at the bottom section here, this is like a little flow chart that you fill out, and any notes you would need, images that would help you with the notes, and then a notes taking section. So any kind of activity or engagement that you would need your learner to complete. So these are the necessary steps to produce an interactive study guide. First, you would need to identify the behavioral objectives for the lesson. Then you would need to create a detailed outline of topics that relate to each objective. And then you would need a narrative section that would identify the key words. Additionally, you would want to use geometric shapes to show relations or visuals to assist the learner in understanding each section. Then you want to go ahead and create word pictures for the narrative sections by leaving blanks where the students can fill it in. This will help to make sure that they're following along and keep them engaged. You're going to want to sequence the displays in the order that they will be presented to the learner and the order that they will be discussed. So this will help them follow it in a very linear flow of the lesson. You're also going to want to develop sub-displays for topics that have one or more visuals or word pictures. And lastly, you're going to produce the interactive study guide using proper graphic design principles. So that Laura will walk you through that a little bit more in depth, but you're going to basically want to make it so that they can actually view it and interact with it effectively. So once the interactive study guide is developed, it's a lot easier for the instructor to prepare for and teach the class, and it's organized so that it's easier for the learners to follow along. Okay, so I'm going to go and hand you over to Laura to guide you through the second half of this webinar. Thank you all for following along, and I hope you enjoy the second half.
Hi, I'm Laura Gicker. I'm going to talk to you about graphic design, word pictures, and visual analogies for distance education. With written graphics, size, font, color and contrast, alignment, and capitalization are important for successful design. The size. Size is important for legibility. A large 24 to 36 point font is recommended for legibility. Bold type is also easier to read. Each display should have no more than 5 lines of text and 5 words per line. Font. Sans serif fonts should be used when designing your interactive study guide. Use the same fonts throughout the presentation. Don't use more than 3 types of fonts on any single display, preferably no more than 2. Color and contrast. Color should be bold and simple. For good contrast, use dark letters on a light background or light letters on a dark background. Alignment. Since we read left to right, left justified text seems to be the most legible in displays. Capitalization. Use both upper and lowercase. Don't use all caps. The first element of design that we will talk about is line. Line is one-dimensional and has length but not width, and a line can show direction or define a shape. Shapes are two-dimensional. They have height and width. Shapes can symbolize objects or show large or small spaces. Space is the distance or areas around, between, and within components of a design. Positive space is the area occupied by the subject of the picture itself. Negative space is the empty space around, between, and within the components of a design. For example, do you see faces or a face in this design? Texture is the surface quality of an object that we sense through touch. All objects have physical texture. Texture shows roughness or smoothness of an object. Value is the degree of lightness or darkness of a surface. White is the lightest value. Black is the darkest. Value is accomplished through shading. Color is used to visualize an object realistically or differentiate one object from another. Hue is the specific color such as red, blue, green, or yellow. Value is the lightness or darkness of the hue. Intensity is the quality that distinguishes a strong color from a weak one. Now that we've talked about the elements of design, we're going to talk about the principles of design. The first one we will discuss is balance. Balance is the sense of equilibrium in a visual. Balance distributes the visual weight of objects, colors, texture, and space. If the design were a scale, these elements would be balanced so that to make a design feel stable. Formal balance is when the objects are of equal size and importance are placed at equal distances from the center of the visual, like the shirts in the upper right-hand corner. Informal balance is where several small objects can balance one large object, like the black and white photo of lines in a triangle shape in the bottom right-hand corner. The center of interest is the visual focal point and should relate to the graphic's purpose. The upper left-hand corner of a graphic is usually the best place for the center of interest because it follows our reading flow. The key object in a graphic should be emphasized. This is done by making the object visually dominant and commands the viewer's attention. This can be done with the use of pointers, colors, large objects, different shapes, or incorporating more elements of design. Unity means that a visual holds together to convey its purpose. This can be done by placing an outline or border around the elements in a display. Repetitions of shapes, forms, and objects can also promote unity. For example, all of the objects in this picture together convey the idea of a work or study desk. Contrast refers to the characteristics of an object that cause it to stand out. When placed next to each other, contrasting elements command the viewer's attention. Areas of contrast are among the first places that a viewer's eye is drawn, such as the white bird in this picture. Finally, rhythm is a feeling of movement achieved by repetition. Rhythm relies on variety, such as the different amounts of beer in each glass. Ready for happy hour? Now that we've gotten through design, we will discuss word pictures. So what is a word picture? A word picture is a graphic representation of concepts, principles, and information, where keywords are shown in nodes. Word pictures are graphic organizers that place elements of ideas together in a visual way. There are many different types of word pictures. The first one we will discuss is semantic maps. Semantic maps are two-dimensional diagrams that use arrangements of nodes and links to communicate ideas and to show the relationships among ideas. Webbing, as shown on the bottom, is similar, except that subordinate ideas radiate out like the spokes of a wheel. Mind maps use key words or phrases organized in a design that is nonlinear. Mind maps start at the center and branch out as individual ideas are presented. Cognitive maps are more structured and organized than mind maps. They provide a graphic expression of the structure of a body of knowledge. Structured overviews use graphics and hierarchical structures showing the relationship of key ideas, concepts, and other information. Outlines are used in presenting concurrent ideas and are largely verbal. Pattern note-taking is also similar to mind mapping. A key word or phrase is in the center of a space, and arrows or lines radiate out to show sub-ideas and relationships. Pyramiding shows levels of ideas in a graphic way, using a bottom-to-top model in a hierarchical manner. An example of pyramiding that we are familiar with is Bloom's taxonomy. Finally, in information mapping, maps are arranged hierarchically into blocks of information. All the blocks relate to a central theme or idea. 4 organizational patterns for distance education are also discussed in our text. With problem solution, students are presented with a problem and find potential solutions to the problem. With time sequence, information is organized into a list or sequence of events that unfold throughout time. With definitions, students are presented with a statement of a concept to be defined, a listing of attributes and examples of how the term or phrase is used, such as in this presentation. With cause and effect, an event and its causes or antecedents are presented. Visual analogies assist learners in understanding new ideas by comparing unfamiliar information to something familiar. There are 4 parts of an analogy: the new subject, the analog, the connector, and the ground. The new subject is the unfamiliar information, such as the Earth's layers in this graphic. The analog is the familiar information, such as the peach. The connector shows the relationship between the two concepts, like the structural relationship of the Earth and the peach. The ground is the specific set of similarities and differences between the familiar and the unfamiliar, like the layers of both the Earth and the peach. Now let's look why good design is important for distance learning. A study by Savo and Kanuka at the University of Alberta was conducted to determine if screens that employ accepted principles of visual design influence the learning process. Although there was no significant difference in achievement scores between the lesson that contained screen layouts using good design principles compared with the lessons that contained screen layouts not using good design principles, the data revealed that there was a significant difference in time to complete the lesson, favoring the group using the lesson containing screens that use good design principles. There was also a significant difference in the completion rates of students who completed the lesson with good graphics and those who completed the lesson with poor graphics. So what is the best graphic for distance learning? According to Ruth Clark, the author of Graphics for Learning, Proven Guidelines for Planning, Designing, and Evaluating Visuals and Training Materials, the best graphic for learning purposes will depend on an interplay among your instructional goals, features of the graphic itself, and properties of the learning landscape, including the training setting, the delivery media, and the learners who will participate.